Just when I think these arguments could not get any more insane. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you're returning, welcome back. I appreciate your continued support, and I hope that you are subscribed as well. So as we've seen in several states across the country, there have been these bills put in place that prevent medical professionals from performing what they like to call these gender-affirming surgeries on children under the age of 18. And what they actually are anatomy mutilating surgeries because they render your reproductive organs completely useless. They sterilize kids. They turn these kids into medical patients for the rest of their lives because so many of these surgeries are very experimental and have very low success rates, and they just come with a whole host of complications. And I don't know that I will ever not be shocked that we even have to have this conversation, because for some reason there seems to be this group of people in the country that seem to believe that there are just this mass group of children that are just dying to be sterilized for the rest of their lives, that are just so excited at the thought of having completely useless reproductive organs, that are so excited at the idea of never being able to bear their own children, about the idea of being perpetual medical patients until the day that they die. So it just, I don't know why we have to have this conversation, but we do. And I am so glad that these people are putting these bills in place to prevent mentally ill people from preying on these kids and forcing decisions on them that they are not capable of even coming close to understanding. So Louisiana has been one of these states debating these bills over the last couple of weeks. They have been going over House Bill 463, which again is one of these bills that says that you cannot have a minor child receive one of these surgeries that is going to permanently alter their anatomy. You cannot give them sterilizing drugs, which is exactly what these hormones and puberty blockers are doing. And of course, the debate on the other side has been that this needs to be an option. This needs to be a right, that these parents are just so convinced with their child's true identity that they need the ability to change the trajectory of their child's identity for the rest of their lives. What continues to blow my mind, aside from the fact that we're having this conversation, is the reasoning that these parents come up with, which blatantly demonstrates that this is truly about receiving praise and glory for themselves. And one of these parents was this woman who got up and shared her experience about how she knew that her daughter was meant to be a boy. And I guarantee you're going to want to take your blood pressure medication before listening to this.
Had anxiety and would never sleep, and we couldn't figure out what the problem was. We took him to specialists and neurologists, and he had brain scans trying to figure out why he couldn't sleep. Then as he grew, he got to sleeping, but his food choices were odd. They were always like green vegetables, raw green vegetables, which, if you know kids, most kids don't like to eat those things. And then the precocious puberty. All of those things, once we figured out that he was transgender, when he came to us and told us that he was transgender, when we went back and realized that the pattern of everything that he had experienced as a child, including eating green vegetables because that boosts testosterone, were just methods of his body trying to become who he was meant to be. His brain does not match his physiology.
So let me get this straight. Your daughter was born perfectly healthy, no medical conditions, no issues whatsoever. And because she liked vegetables, that was the sign that your child, that your daughter, wants to be a boy. This just continues to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that these people, again, are just looking for a reason to have a transgender child. All three of my children have very different food tastes, and don't even get me started on the fact that all of them actually just happen to like vegetables. My oldest went through a phase when he was about 18 months old that he only wanted to eat these organic cereal bars, and I honestly thought, I was terrified that that's all we were going to be able to get him to eat for the rest of his life, and that he was going to be stunted in his growth and development because we were never going to be able to get him to eat anything else. Of course, it was just a phase, like pretty much everything that children go through throughout their childhood and toddlerhood and teen years. My middle son has always been this kid that just will try anything. He's never been picky. He doesn't hesitate. He will try it. And there's really not very many things that he doesn't like. And then there's my daughter, who has a favorite food one day, and the next day it's the grossest thing that she's ever had. And she's been like that since she was a baby. So I don't know if I can say this enough, but there are no characteristics or traits that these people ever point to that make their child, their supposed transgender child, any different than a child that is not transgender. Literally, by their own logic, every kid on the planet was born in the wrong body. I'm honestly not sure if this next lady is better or worse. You decide.
And then I was Christmas shopping for them. They were 18 months old, and I bought one of those toy tool benches, and I was making the joke that, well, when one of them comes to me and says they're a man when they're 18, I can't say I didn't see it coming, just because they kind of did draw to boy toys, and I was just making a joke. But I am so glad I said it out loud, because I have that in my mind now that at 18 months old, something somewhere was telling me what he knew all along. Sure, of course. Okay. But so when he could start talking, he articulated to me that he was a boy. Mommy, I'm a boy. Mommy, I'm a boy. And both of my kids did Mommy, I'm a puppy, all that. It was very different. And we drug our feet on it because what? You know, it's normal to not understand that, obviously. So we saw therapists and we saw doctors, and ultimately we came to know what he has known all along, which is that he really is a boy. He really is. And I will be starting gender affirming care for him.
This honestly just makes me want to throw up. Your 18-month-old daughter had an interest in plastic tools. She started her life out with no health issues, no mental health conditions, nothing going on, no distress whatsoever. And you decided to change her entire identity because of a toy that she picked up as a baby. You decided. She didn't decide. You did. You convinced your child that it was not normal to be a girl that liked to play with plastic tools. You convinced your child that she cannot live in this body and have these interests simultaneously and be happy, that she'll never live her life happily without drugs or surgeries because of the toys that she picked up as a baby. You took advantage of her not knowing any better and put her in this position where she can't say no because she doesn't even know that saying no is an option. And with you as their mother, is this even an option for her? Because probably not. You don't want her to say no at this point, because then you would lose your status and your social media likes and attention. And you'd have to admit that you abused your child. And the way that this mom is talking about this is like she just purchased a pair of shoes that she's had her eye on forever, just waiting for the right time when you could get those expensive Jimmy Choo shoes so everyone would look at you and ooh and ah over what you have. Like, that's literally the tone that she has right now. And you know who else is really excited about parents doing this to their kids? Medical professionals who are on camera admitting that these surgeries bring in a ton of revenue. And not only that, that it brings in continued revenue because these kids are going to be medical patients for the rest of their lives. There is no going back. They are going to experience numerous complications. They are going to experience things that cannot be reversed and can only be treated with continued medication and attention from medical professionals. They are the ones that are so excited about parents who have bought into this disgusting ideology and the things that they are permanently doing to their own children.
Now, bottom surgeries, these are huge money makers. Again, I think this has to be an underestimate that they're quoting around $20,000 for a phalloplasty. There's been different things that I've read that said it could be up to $100,000. Dr. Winokur, who's our surgeon, says that there's entire clinics where the entire clinic is supported just by their phalloplasties, and that is like a fraction of the surgeries that they're doing. These surgeries are labor intensive, they require a lot of follow-ups, they require a lot of OR time, and they make money. They make money for the hospital.
And this is directly corroborated by the detransitioners that are constantly getting up to testify in favor of these bills because of their own experiences, because they are letting people know that they were talked into doing these things, that this is not something they'd ever wanted to do.
I came to believe I was male in a female body after reading a memoir about someone who had transitioned. I came out to my mom, who was scared I was going to kill myself if she didn't affirm me. I was immediately taken to a gender therapist who diagnosed me with gender dysphoria and wrote a letter recommending I start testosterone after only 3 months of therapy. I started T 7 months after coming out at the age of 16, and I really thought transitioning was going to fix everything. My period stopped, facial hair grew. Pretty soon I was passing as male. At first I was elated, but my mental health did not improve. I became more suicidal, more unstable, and the anxiety became debilitating. The testosterone was never questioned as a contributing factor to my increasing instability. I was in and out of mental hospitals 6 times while being affirmed as male and supported in my decision to transition by my doctor, psychiatrist, immediate family, and even church.
Doctors medicalized me starting puberty blockers and testosterone at 13 years old. I didn't know what things like cervixes or ovulation were, or how the full menstrual cycle worked yet, but I was cleared by adults who had a full understanding of such things to make a decision that would affect my fertility, the onward development of my sexual organs, and the complex processes unique to me as a woman. I was given a double mastectomy, and my breasts, an important part of my sexuality and future motherhood, were removed in the name of political ideology at only 15 years old. And when I went to my surgeon to get help for my complications, like fluid leaking out of my areolar grafts, I got dismissed in a Zoom call with advice that gave me a skin infection. Try to ignore that. You can't. When you attempt to ignore that, you're also ignoring the thousands of detransitioners I personally corresponded with. I am just the tip of the iceberg.
The only drug I was on at this time was synthetic testosterone. I saw a new practitioner who suggested I stop the injectable synthetic testosterone in exchange for a topical version at a much lower dose. My symptoms improved. At 27, I stopped altogether. Shortly after, I experienced the first of 3 transisemittic attacks, also called mini-strokes. Then, at 28, I was diagnosed with endometriosis and adenomyosis. At 29, I lost my uterus and my cervix to the disease and had hysterectomy. After the operation, I discovered that my vaginal tissue was excessively thinned and weakened by testosterone use. I had multiple tears, which led to infections. I also learned that my ovaries no longer function, and I am on supplemental estrogen.
How many stories do we have to hear of people who come out and say that none of this was their choice, as they sob at the fact that now that they have to live with these long-term consequences, the permanent effects of these drugs, the fact that their reproductive organs never developed properly, the fact that they're in chronic pain and that they had things removed that they never knew that they would have an appreciation for because nobody told them that they might regret it. And the fact that we have all of these girls walking around with male voices. And though that might not sound like a big deal, which is easy for us to say because we're not the ones having to cope with living in a body that used to be healthy and now is not. But it is a big deal to be a female and have people look at you and know that you're female and to open your mouth and sound like a male. These young kids, they have no idea what their parents are doing to them. Of course, they think it's normal because they've been told that it's normal. Of course, they're perfectly happy with short hair and whatever clothes you put in their closet and toys that you surround them with. They have no reason at this point in their lives to question any of it. These are the trusted adults who love them. As parents, they know that you love them more than anything in the world, and you are abusing that trust. Like all kids, they have absolutely no reason to believe that their own mother, the person that is supposed to love them and protect them the most, would ever lead them down a path that would be harmful to them. As far as they're concerned, you are leading them down a path that is going to make them happy, that is going to bring them the most contentment in their life and bring them the most sense of purpose and fulfill their lives. They have no idea that you are setting them on the path that is going to do exactly the opposite. Because you notice how all of the people who are excitedly signing up their children for things like hormones and puberty blockers and surgeries that will make these kids medical patients forever, these people would never do this to their own body. The people who understand the long-term consequences of what these things mean, who know the drugs that they're signing their kids up for will cause, whether if it's your daughter, will cause her to grow facial hair and sound like a boy, or the drugs that they're injecting into their sons will cause their penis not to grow and their voice never to deepen. And they would never do this to themselves. We don't have huge numbers in the adult population doing this to themselves, because by the time you reach adulthood, you are comfortable in your own body and you are okay being a woman that isn't perhaps super girly, or being a man that might have more feminine traits and interests. Because we understand that as you get older, you are not required to adhere to certain stereotypes, and that you can be yourself in the body that you were born with, regardless of the anatomy that you have. And we do have a more accepting society than we have ever had in the past. So if this was something that human beings naturally wanted to gravitate towards, and becoming transgender and taking these hormones and getting these surgeries, they would feel no hesitation in doing that. The only people that are being influenced to do this are people with vulnerabilities, whether it be because they're a child, because they're a teenager going through something, whether they are an adult going through something. It requires a vulnerability to influence people to do it, because again, perfectly healthy adults are not doing this to themselves. We need to understand that these children are not picking their gender, they are picking their interests. They are not picking their pronouns, they are just picking the things that they want to do and the colors they like. And we need to stop putting all of this pressure on them and analyzing every single decision that they make as some kind of indicator that they want to change their entire lives, and that they would, if they fully understood it, they would choose to be a medical patient for the rest of their lives, and choose not to have the ability to bear their own children, and choose to be referred to with pronouns that don't make any sense. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please like this video. Even if you just leave an emoji in the comments below, that helps me in the algorithm. Please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.